What are the key ingredients to a super dad? Patience, affection. The most important ingredient is the presence of a mischief-making child, yours truly. Fellow Toastmasters, contest chair and dear guests, the most important critical requirement or the key success factor behind every super dad is the presence of a spoiled brat. That is me in this case. So all you can attribute as far as my dad being super also has to be attributed to me because of the mischiefs that I created for him. Let me take you back through our lives. My parents were like chalk and cheese. On one side was my mom, who was a topper right throughout her schooling and college days. And on the other side was my dad, who was a professional athlete representing Tamil Nadu in the Ranji Trophy, brilliant in English, but if I have to sum up his abilities in all the other subjects put together in a single word, disastrous would be an understatement. Him scoring more than 33 marks in all the other subjects was like Alia Bhatt topping the IIT entrance examination. So, considering this background, now imagine a situation wherein I had to submit a very urgent mathematics assignment. Being a spoiled brat that I was, the submission was already procrastinated by 2 weeks. This was the final date. Unfortunately, my mom was not there at home that day. Mathematics assignment, my dad. It was as if I'd put the entire Mount Everest on his poor shoulders. What he did next is something which is miraculous. My mom always felt that geometry is what makes life special. My dad, on the other hand, felt there is no point of geometry. He said he would rather kill himself using a compass rather than doing those perpendicular bisector diagrams. He toiled hard for 3 hours, at the end of which we had completed those 5 questions as an assignment. Trust me, after that, when I looked at him, it looked as if Rahul Gandhi after the Arnab Goswami interview. So I sat down with him, said, put my hands around him. Dad, what is the need for me to study mathematics? He said, son, maths is an extremely important subject. Please don't ignore it. I said, why Dad? Why? Now, I was asking for it. Then the frustrated answer came out. So that 30 years down the line, you don't feel the same torture that I'm undergoing today, teaching this nonsensical subject to you when you need to teach it to your kids. The man had a point. I told to myself, irrespective of whether I like a subject or not, I will make sure that I at least put in some basic efforts to understand the fundamentals so that whenever my prodigal son arrives, he will not pester me. Fundamentals aside, he wanted me to equally put a lot of emphasis on physics as well. He wanted me to understand the minor nuances. And I think that is the reason why he took me to watch a movie of the legendary Rajnikant. Sitting inside the cinema hall, being an aspiring engineer, I was completely flabbergasted. Here was the climax scene. Rajnikant standing on one side, a huge wall in the middle, and a villain on the other side. Rajnikant had got 2 guns with 1 bullet each. He throws the second gun in the air and shoots it with the first gun. Now, some miraculous way, that gun is positioned at just exactly the top of the wall. That bullet hits that trigger, and the second gun fires. And it hits the villain straight on the chest, and the villain collapses. Trust me, had Newton been alive, he would have shot himself again. I had already taken all my hair in my hand by that time. But being a huge fan of Newton that I was, I decided I would try and attempt this as the 4th law of Newton's motion. I went back home. Unfortunately, I did not carry any guns, so I had to try and make do with stones. After 3 or 4 unsuccessful attempts, the 4th attempt, I was able to hit the first rock with the second. It ricocheted. Within 2 seconds, I heard, ah! It was my neighbor. The stone had ricocheted straight onto his forehead, blood oozing down. He came rushing to catch hold of me. Thankfully, my dad stepped in, his all 5'5" frame towering over me as a protector. Unfortunately, the neighbor was 6'6". Somehow, he was able to assuage him and pacify him, and I got away. It made me realize 2 very important things that day. One, my father was my cloak of invisibility against all the Voldemorts in the world. Secondly, just like whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, whatever happens in a Rajnikant movie, for God's sake, for the safety of the population, must remain within the confines of the cinema hall. Now, moving on to a combination of maths and physics. Any conversation about my dad is incomplete without a story on cricket. My dad in cricket and my dad without cricket would rather be the vada pav without the vada. So here I was, sitting, watching the commercial on television. Sachin Tendulkar plays a beautiful swiveling pull shot. Picks up his boost can, gulps it down. Boost is the secret of my energy. From nowhere, Kapil Dev walks around. Our energy. Now I was extremely charged up. I picked up my boost can, gulped down the drink, Sachin Tendulkar inside my body. I played the same swiveling sweep shot. Brilliant execution. Only problem, my dad was right in the firing line. The bat hit my dad's forehead in the temple and he fell down on all fours. My mother rushed to the scene, sprinkled water on his face. He got up, snatched the bat away from me. I said, oh my God, I'm dead. But instead, what he did was, he said, son, if you're going to play this pull shot like this, it'll take the leading edge of the bat and it'll be caught at deep mid-wicket. The better option is to play like this. My reaction was, my mother's reaction was even more. And she went back into the kitchen. I asked my dad, Dad, I almost killed you there. Why are you not scolding me? He said, son, life is already very complicated. It's already too serious. Now you have to look at the lighter side of things. My dear friends, life is something which comes only once in a lifetime, right? It's a game which needs to be enjoyed. Every moment, we have to look at the silver lining amidst the dark clouds. It's important to laugh at ourselves because after all, what is life without laughter? God bless you.